Hi everyone! So if you've clicked on this video, you're obviously wondering how much does it cost to go cruising. And after 2 long years, we have finally crunched the numbers and we are here to answer that question once and for all.
Almost 2 years ago, we left it all behind for a chance at the sailing adventure of a lifetime.
It has not been smooth sailing since then, but together we are learning and laughing our way through.
Our hope is that if we laugh long enough, we can make our merry way around the world.
And this
is a Millennial Falcon.
So we've been holding off making this video for some time. 2 years in fact.
And in those 2 years, we have visited 19 islands and nations, sailed for almost 6,000 miles, and with the exception of a few brief trips home, have lived aboard almost the entire time.
We're the first to admit that we've not gone half as far as we would have hoped. But we have enjoyed every minute of our adventure so far, and don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
We knew that when we did provide figures, we wanted them to be an accurate representation of our past experiences. Something that you can plan with. These are figures that this money's gone. This money's been spent. It's really what it cost us to do what we've done so far, and we haven't hidden anything from you. And we're doing that because we want you to be able to use these figures to plan your journey with some degree of accuracy and confidence.
So in the interest of brevity, we haven't included all figures, and to be honest, I don't really think you care about how much I've spent on sunscreen and broken sunglasses over the last 2 years. So Adam and I both sat down and we wrote down a list of all the things that we wanted to know when we were planning our sailing adventure. So in the interest of brevity and keeping things simple for your own planning, that's all that we've included now. If you do have any questions, then put them below and we can endeavour to address them in another episode or later on.
So we got to the figures through crunching 2 years worth of bank statements. There was a lot of figures to go through. We kind of did this periodically so we didn't forget what each of the figures before, but this is based on real numbers. So what we did was that we went through line by line each of the transactions and categorized them into 4 different categories. So they are cost of acquisition, refit, upgrade and repair, cost of cruising, and the cost of living. So without further ado, let's look at the numbers.
So before you buy a boat, you have to find the boat. And for us that meant packing our bags, getting on a plane halfway around the world and driving around for a month in the US. We spent during that time about $2,987, and what that was consumed by was renting cars, staying in Airbnbs and eating a ton of roadside food while we hunted for our boat. So after a month of searching, we finally found the boat, this boat, the Millennial Falcon. She's a 1981 Tayana 42 and we spent $47,000 US buying her. Once you find the boat and you make an offer and the offer's accepted, yay!
Yay! We own a boat!
The spending is not done, unfortunately. You then have to get a survey done, you have to pay brokerage fees, you have to pay registration administration fees and money transfer fees. All of those fees put together for us was $2,020. So we bought the boat, we spent all the money transferring it into our name, we registered in our name, in our country, we're now boat owners. However, we're also half a world away from anything we know, with only the clothes on our back and a one big backpack each. So unfortunately we had to spend $1,051 on boat furnishings. Now that includes cutlery, pots and pans, tools, haberdashery, is that the right word? Haberdashery, bedding, pretty much all the little bells and whistles that you would most likely take from your house if you were buying locally. Now when you buy a boat, unless you negotiate otherwise, you're more than likely up for the expenses of storing it from that point. And it's probably in a cradle. You're also up for the costs of hauling and splashing it for a sea trial and survey. For us, that expense represented $1,388.
So our total cost for acquisition is $53,398.
Cost of upgrade, upkeep, and refit. Now, it's important to note that our circumstances are by no means the norm. We bought our boat half a world away in Florida, or in the US, where we only had 3 months of visa time. So we had to find the boat, get in, find the boat, fix the boat, and get out in 3 months. So that prevented us from doing any kind of reasonable refit. We just did the bare minimum to get moving. Most people who buy a boat locally, very likely this will be your circumstances, you'll do a reasonable refit or a very thorough refit for maybe a year, maybe 2, maybe 5 before you depart. So that expense will already be incurred when you leave and therefore should not be rolled into the cost of upkeep whilst cruising.
So when we first decided to go sailing, we obviously put together a budget on how much it would cost. I put 100% boat upgrades into my budget. Meanwhile, Adam did 100% boat repairs in his budget. Turns out boats need both of those things. So we've split our expenses up into upgrades, refit, and then maintenance and upkeep. So if we go to our spreadsheet, so the first column here are boat upgrades, and this includes the top 10 most expensive things that we've purchased for our boat to improve it, to make it better than what it was. Next on the spreadsheet are our refit costs. Now, if you were back at home, you would probably spend a couple of years, a good few months at home, perhaps while you're working, doing your boat refit. So these are the kind of top 10 most expensive refit purchases that we had to buy. Lastly, we do have to acknowledge the use of subcontractors or contractors. We couldn't have gotten some stuff done without them. For instance, for us, they included sandblasting our hull initially when there was 10-20 years of paint from the previous owner on there. We just couldn't have sanded that away. Things like the fridge when we initially bought the boat as well, and also the diesel mechanic who helped us realign our engine. We couldn't have done those things without them, and we always hope that we can learn something from them when we do get a contractor out.
If we are to summarise, if we take all the money we've spent on the boat to date, we take away everything we consider to be an upgrade, and we take away everything we consider to be done as part of a reasonable refit. We also remove the cost of some subcontractors. What we're left with should be the cost of fair wear and tear maintenance and upkeep on a well refitted, normal sailboat. Examples of what you might use is things like belts, filters, replacement tools, hoses, tap fittings, all those fair wear and tear things that they just wear out, they have a short shelf life. So, the magic number. What we have spent on fair wear and tear maintenance over the last 2 years per month is $656.
So our next category is cost of living. And in this one we have our food and drink, which we do eat quite modestly. We definitely don't go out of our way to get expensive dishes. And kind of more often than not, we do end up eating more beans, rice and noodles. Especially during the first few months that we first bought our boat, we were very much living frugally and almost using food as a means for saving. So for instance, we would go out for the day and we wouldn't have lunch because we didn't want to buy it when we were out. Also with our food and drink, the price varies a lot per island.
We've been walking around like we've been sucking on a lemon, all pouty and aggro, thinking everything's super expensive. Like this was $3. It's not $3, it's 3 EC, which is 1 EC is 0.5 Australian dollars. It's a bloody $1.50, which is perfectly reasonable. It's cheap.
When we first started cruising, we went to Turks and Caicos and saw a bottle of Sunny D orange juice.
You have got to be kidding me. $11 for Tropicana.
And we were quite shocked, thinking, oh god, we're never going to have enough money. Meanwhile, a few months later we went down to some of the French nations like Guadeloupe, and you can get like a reel of brie cheese for €1.50. Thankfully we felt a bit better then. The cost of food really does vary a lot. We generally try to stock up in the cheaper places so that if we go to more expensive places we'll have food already in our cupboards. So the cost of our food and drink per month is $398. So also in our cost of living is the fuel for our dinghy, for our boat engine, and for our propane. So for our propane, we do probably top up a new tank every 3 months or so, and it costs us about $30 US. So in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of negligible. With our outboard fuel, we do use our outboard pretty much all the time going to shore. We probably should row more, and there are, if you would like to save a little more money, you probably can row to the dinghy docks to shore a little more often than we do, but we do anchor further out in order to have more swing room, so that's our choice. We also use our engine as well. There have been a few times when we've had to use our engine to get out of a bit of a dicey situation during hurricane season. We decided to motor a little bit. We also need to kind of rush there as well. As Adam's mentioned, there is a bit of a bad weather band coming towards us, which means that we have about 3.5 days to actually get to Carriacou before any bad weather kind of hits us. So we have had to use our engine a few times there. However, we mostly try to not use it when we're sailing, and I think that we are pretty good with not using it. We do have 2 60-gallon tanks, and they last us a very, very long time. And from when we need to top them up ranges between 6 to 12 months. It's very, very infrequent that we top up our diesel tanks. But the cost for our fuel is $59 per month. So our total cost of living for a month is $457. And the last one of our categories are our cruising costs. So we split this up into 2 sections. First one is marinas, yards, and mooring balls. We actually don't spend that long on mooring balls at all. I reckon I could count on 2 hands how many times we've been on a mooring ball, and usually it's because it's a national park. We literally have not been able to anchor anywhere. So after 2 failed attempts to get the anchor set, we decided to bite the bullet and pay the 60 EC a night fee for a mooring ball. We did put the boat in a marina when we were going back for Adam's sister's wedding, when we were going back to Australia. We have spent 2 times in yards as well. One of them was for a fairly long time, where we took up our teak decks and repaired the hole in our keel. And the second time was only recently, where it was quite quick. For us, we spent $136 per month on average throughout 2 years. And lastly, we also have official fees, and when you check into a country, the costs associated with that. Customs and immigration. Yeah, we need to go check into customs.
So we've just checked in, $20 US. Pretty easy peasy fee.
This varies greatly between places. For instance, in the French nations, we'll pay €2 to check in. But then on the flip side, when we went to St Kitts and Nevis, we paid a couple of $100 just for 7 days of staying there. So this varies greatly. It is worth noting as well that you have a lot of control over how much you spend when you go. We are fairly slow kind of travellers. We tend to go to less places in a month, and therefore it costs us less. But we do them all very thoroughly. However, we have paid, over the course of 2 years per month, we paid $51. So that brings our total cost of cruising for a month to $187. So let's review our totals. Total cost of acquisition, $53,398. Total refit, $7,709. Total upgrades, $8,984. Monthly upkeep, $656. Monthly living costs, $457. Monthly cruising costs, $187. Total monthly costs, $1,300.
So what do we think about that total? Am I unhappy with it? No, not really. I mean, I'm sure many of you have considered all of the literature out there dealing with this subject, and to be frank, the left and right of arc is pretty broad. So I dove back into some of the books that I considered, and just dug out a few extreme cases. So the highest one I've found so far is Beth Leonard's book, The Voyagers Handbook. And in that book she says for boats 37, 42 and 45 feet, the cost of acquisition and refit is $175,000. And the cost of living, or pretty much everything else after that point, is between $2,600 and $3,300 per month. That's pretty massive, and that's circa 1995. So then on the extreme other end of the scale, you've got Annie Hill's book, Voyaging on a Small Income. And in that book, she says that for boats between 25 and 32 feet, the cost of acquisition and refit can be between $20,000 and $50,000. And for everything else thereafter, on a monthly basis, you're looking at $300 to $800 per month. And again, if I'm not mistaken, this is circa 1995. So our price in 2018, 2020 money is pretty good, even compared to circa 1995 left and right of arc. Like, we're pretty well bang in the middle, if not towards the lower end, which I'm pretty happy about. And then if you scale those numbers up for, you know, to today's money, our position improves even more. So you know, we could always do better, and I think we will look at ways to improve our expenditure over time, and we will revisit this subject, perhaps yearly, perhaps in different parts of the world, I don't know. But as it stands now, I think we've done pretty well.
So everyone, if you managed to get to the end of that, then well done, and I really hope that we provided some valuable information for you.
Meant to be fair, I think it was only 15 minutes.
I think it was, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and if you do have any further questions, then feel free to write them below. You can send us an email as well, or even hit us up on Instagram and Facebook. Obviously the usuals, like, subscribe, share, do all those things, and we'll hope to catch you on the next episode.
See you next week.
Bye.